Back at it, back in the studio, working on these pieces. Episode 51 was about day trading natural gas futures against Hurricane Harvey to fund a piece called Parafiction #1. Blah, blah, blah. Parafiction #1 is an experiment with the truth. This episode, episode 52, is going to focus more on the design and manufacture of those pieces. With a final rough estimate of $50K in mind, I did my research. I met with my man on the inside. I dressed for the occasion, gained access to a trading desk, and went to work in the studio while I waited for hurricane season. I needed at least $50K to complete the project, and I was about to make that happen. After killing it trading natural gas futures, I was back in business and back to the studio. These blue tool paths tell the CNC machine what material to remove. After calculating the tool paths, the main figure seems to fit neatly inside an 8-foot by 8-foot cube. 2-inch by 8-foot sheets of high-density urethane foam retail for $420. 8 feet divided by 2 inches is 48 sheets. 48 times 420 is $20,200 for the main figure. For models like this, I use tapered ball end mills.
I'm about to machine a 100th scale test model of the head.
All right, well, this is why you run tests like this, scale tests. I said this was a 100th scale test. It's a 10th scale, and I made some mistakes. As a generalization, the initial results off the CNC machine are not usually this bad. But that's why this is a 10th scale model. Back to the drawing board.
All right, so after spraying, after machining, I think 48 sheets of high-density urethane foam, I finally finished spraying the head and the other object.
All of this rough texture needs to be buffed out by hand. It's a shitload of hand labor.
This is the original design sketch. At the beginning of this process, I wanted to see what that sketch would look like as a strictly two-dimensional, highly stylized form of drawing. So I began by redrawing that sketch, but locking all of the forms to strict geometry. I understand some of my work as a form of neo-cubism. You can see the influence of that in the fractured space of this drawing. When getting ready to make a three-dimensional object, I often work back and forth between rough plasticine sculptures and the drawing itself, trying to understand what the two-dimensional marks would mean as an actual fully three-dimensional object. It's impossible to make a 3D object from a 2D drawing without complications. The more stylized the source drawing, the more problems. CAD and modeling software is so much slower and harder to manipulate than fingers and clay. Making translation decisions in clay first provides so much more formal freedom. All right, so the initial charcoal drawing has been translated into a strict geometric drawing, which will be now used as the backdrop to produce a three-dimensional model for the CAD work. Here I am sculpting the rough volume of the head with the geometric drawing as a backdrop layer. After doing the drawings and the series of plasticine models, this CAD process usually lasts about 8 hours. The beauty of this process is that it's scaleless. Once this modeling work is complete, the object can be machined at 1 inch or 100 feet. If I don't understand the form well enough, I find that I waste a lot of time in the modeling program, so occasionally I'll take a step back to try to rough out the form in 3 dimensions in plasticine, and then I'll return to the modeling program. One objective of the modeling is to reinterpret the fractured space of cubism. When we look at the original character drawings, we'll see that they're fractured, that there's a spatial fracture to them. So I split the mesh and offset components of the head in order to create this neo-cubist language. Finally, about 8 hours later, there is a serviceable but far from perfect initial model of the head. I find it interesting often to compare it back to the intermediate Plasticine stage. After more modeling work, I'll go through a series of trying to develop a set of flat graphic prints. So then all of this insane vector line work is then meticulously hand-built. I always try to make prints as companion pieces to the larger, more involved works. I see this process as a form of extended cognition, as a way of thinking, an alternate form of thinking through the ramifications, alternate contexts, and the ramifications of the form of the larger works, The Diego Rivera courtyard at the Detroit Institute of the Arts awaits, and this is what I was looking at. Ideally, each piece builds on ideas and skill developed in previous work. The dimensionalized typography and the head modeling that I'm currently using were first developed in this smaller sculpture. Almost 6 months to the day after conceiving of this project, and 85.9 years since Diego Rivera completed his murals, the work is finally installed in the Diego Rivera courtyard. The artist Diego Rivera was a renowned and controversial communist in 1933 when he completed Detroit Industry, the murals seen here at the Detroit Institute of the Arts. My piece, entitled Parafiction No. 1, was funded exclusively and solely from the proceeds of trading natural gas futures against Hurricane Harvey, which is a late capitalist disaster capital strategy. It's only appropriate that this piece now lays over the top of, superimposed over, the work of Rivera. So I just took my 100-pound American Bulldog Moo for a walk, and when I laid down with him at the Cranbrook Oval, he punched me in the right eye. So if my right eye looks fucked off, it's not because of anything other than, it's because he is insane. I'd really like to hear feedback from you on those components that you think work, and don't be afraid to mention the types of pieces without being a dick. The types of components that you think don't work. That's what the comments below are for. Now this is where you're going to black out. You're not paying attention at all, but honestly, if you share the video, if you hit that button and you hit the like button, it really does help the channel grow, blah, 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 blah. So producing t-shirts, hoodies, and a variety of streetwear and limited editions of 25. Once they're gone, they're gone. This is an example of one of the pieces, one of the recent pieces. It's 100% cotton with a tearaway label. It has the Mad King brand somewhere back here. I don't know if you can see that. You go to www.minislimited.com to check it out. Once they're gone, make sure you watch part 1 of this video here. You can also collect my limited edition prints, streetwear, and drawings at minislimited.com.